श्रीमान वेंकटनाथार्यः कवितार्किक केसरी वेदांताचार्य वर्यो मे सन्निधत्तां सदा हृदि. My namaskarams to all of you. So I see over 56 people who have logged in now. I would request the participants to kindly turn on your video, not the audio. I would love to see your faces. So do not worry how the background is. Do not worry if you've brushed or not. Do not worry if you've had your bath or not. That doesn't matter. So please switch on your videos. I would love to see your faces and what you're all doing. That's very important for me. So, thank you. So I'll be calling out names for those who have not switched on their videos. I think they'll all exit then. So today we are blessed, and I am very, very blessed to be a part of this event that has been hosted by Ahobila Mutt US to address the younger population. So as per the registration status that we have over 75% of the participants less than the age of 19, and we have even younger participants above the age of 19. So my namaskarams to all of you who have registered. And we have people from over 10 countries. I don't know how participants are going to manage with the time zones. So it must be midnight somewhere, it must be day somewhere, night somewhere, nevertheless. So my reverences to the interest that you've shown in this event. So the first half of the session will be me speaking, and the second half of the session will also be me speaking, but that will be with respect to the questions that you have raised. And I just got to see the questions now, and they are very, very interesting, and some of them I don't even know whether I'll be able to answer. Nevertheless, we'll go to the first half of the session. So I've been asked to talk about the practical aspects of Sanatana Dharma or Sri Vaishnavism, how it can be applied to our daily lives. First of all, Sanatana Dharma is the name given to this larger belief system. Some of you may understand bits of Tamil, some of you may understand bits of Kannada, some of you may understand bits of Telugu. Since people who understand Telugu may not be able to understand Tamil and vice versa, we have chosen the holiest of the languages, which is English, for the session. So bear with me, and each of you may come with your own accents as well. So some of you may come with your Australian accent, some of you with the accent that's spoken in the East Coast, and some of you in the Midwest, and some of you in the West, and some with me with the Indian accent. So as long as you're all able to comprehend what I say, that's more than enough. Sanatana Dharma. So that's the name of the religion. But fortunately or unfortunately, rather unfortunately, the world calls it Hinduism. So the word Hindu is largely associated with the geographical identity. So amongst the rivers that you might have heard, you've heard of the beautiful Kaveri that flows in the states of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. You must have heard of the river Tungabhadra that flows in the states of Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh. Godavari that runs in Maharashtra, Telangana, and Andhra Pradesh. So you have various such rivers in India, like how you have rivers in the Europe and in the US as well. So there used to be a river, and there still exists this river. It's called the Indus. It starts somewhere in the Tibetan region, runs through India, and then goes into Pakistan. So this river Indus was referred to as Sindhu in those days. So since this river was so wide like Amazon in South America is supposed to be one of the widest rivers. So since it was such a wide river, person standing on one side couldn't see the other side. So he thought this river to be an ocean too. So in Sanskritam, interestingly, the name Sindhu is a proper noun, is a name associated with a river, as well as it is the name given to an ocean. So salt NaCl that comes from the ocean is called as Saindhavam. Sindhu is ocean. So that which comes from Sindhu becomes Saindhavam. Similarly, Sindhu is also the name of the river. So people who wanted to explore this part of the geography on the other side of Sindhu, which is all India, Bangladesh, Nepal, and large parts of Pakistan, from the other side, when they wanted to explore this, they wanted to call this by the geographical identity. So that which is on the other side of Sindhu is Sindha. Sindha became Ind. Ind became India. So Sindhu became Indus. So this is a large geographical identity which we have received now. So Sindhu became Indu, Indu became Hindu, because languages in the Sumerian region, they would add a h to it in the front. Kannadadavaru idara illi? Is somebody who speaks Kannada here? So in Kannada, we generally use the word halu. Halu means milk. And villages are generally associated with the word halli. So whenever you go to Andhra or Tamil Nadu, hakaram will become pa. So halu will become palu. And halli will become palli. So pochampalli, maradpalli. So you've got pa there. Similarly, the language which was spoken in the Sumerian region had this habit of adding a h. In Bengali, the language Bengali, you don't have the word va. So anytime they explore a word which has a va, it will become ba. So Vidya will become Vidya. Chakravarti will become Chakraborti. So Vrindavanam will become Brindavanam. Similarly, in the Sumerian region, hakaram was added. So to Hindu, to the word Hindu, ha was added, it became Hindu. So the name of the religion which all of us are identified today with is Hindu religion. But interestingly, the word Hindu is not found in authentic sources of our religion. So the word that probably most of our ancestors associated with this large belief system was Sanatana Dharma. Why Sanatana Dharma? Dharma is the intrinsic characteristic feature of anything. For example, if I keep my fingers into the burning fire and I say it's hot, it has to be hot, because burning or letting out heat is the property, the feature of fire. So that's the dharma of fire. So if I keep my fingers in the flowing waters of a river, I find it cool, because the general natural ability of water is to be the universal coolant. So to cool is the feature of water. To burn is the feature of fire. To forgive is the feature of Bhagavan. So when we say to err is human and to forgive is divine, he's forgiving and he's all merciful. So we call him the one who's merciful and forgiving. So that's his dharma. That dharma, which has existed since time immemorial. Now there could be a question, sir, how could there be time immemorial? So anything for which we don't know the start date, we call it immemorial. So when we are unsure when it started, we call it something which is immemorial or timeless. So this dharma, which is immemorial or timeless, is called Sanatana Dharma. In Mahabharata, you know what? Bhishmacharya says, Krishnam dharmam sanatanam, yecha veda vido vipraha, yecha adhyatma chetasaha, te vadanti mahatmanam, Krishnam dharmam sanatanam. Krishna himself is no different from Sanatana Dharma, because whatever Krishna has preached in Bhagavad Gita has been coming to us since time immemorial. So this religion which we are all associated today with, which is Hinduism, is traditionally called as Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma is like a huge tree. It's like in chemistry, you get across the periodic table. So those of you who are in your various grades, you will be aware of various elements and the periodic table, correct? So in periodic table, all the elements mentioned there do not share the same properties. So you've got metals, you've got non-metals, you've got metalloids, you've got inert gases, you've got actinides and lanthanides. So there are various properties associated with each of the elements. And then you'll have different atomic number as well. Like for all of you that I see on my screen, I see somebody with a peach color background, somebody with a light beige color background, some with a burgundy. So all of you come with different backgrounds and different weights. I'm sure some of you will be 20 kg, some of you 40, some of you 100, and some of you over 100 as well. So, so you have different weights. Similarly, elements, they have different weights, they have different numbers. But the beauty is, though they come with different properties that are at times even mutually exclusive, there's nothing common, they all come under one table called as the periodic table. So be it metals, be it non-metals, be it those like metalloids which share properties between metals and non-metals, they all come under one category, correct? See, there is some very, even by looking at it, milk chocolate, white chocolate is very, very different from dark chocolate. So if I walk by the streets of California, I may get a Ghirardelli, right? So, and then I go by the other street, I get another chocolate. So they could come with different nuts, some of them without nuts, but they all come under one shop called as chocolate shop. So if I go to a shop, I am given the choice to buy whichever chocolate I want of different flavors. So Sanatana Dharma is that one large table or one large tree under which there are different philosophies. So there is a philosophical system that believes that everything in this world but Brahman, but God, is unreal. That is called Adi Shankaracharya's Advaita. There is another philosophy that believes that everything in this world, everything that you see around, everything that constitutes this universe is the part of the Lord's body. It is his body. So everything is in an organic relationship with the Lord. This system is called as a Visishtadvaita, qualified non-dualism by Ramanujacharya. There is another system that believes that the Lord and the Jivatma, that is us, I, you, all of us are different from the Lord completely. So that's Dvaita. So there is another philosophical system called Achintya Bheda Bheda. So there are so many philosophical systems that come under this tree. There are so many belief systems. So some of us believe that a Lord Narayana is the supreme. Some of them, as a small branch out of this system, believes that Lord Krishna is everything. Some of them believe that Lord Shiva is everything. Some of them believe that Shakti is everything. So this all these become belief systems. So you have Vaishnavism, you've got Shaivism, you've got Shaktism. These are all theological belief systems. So you've got philosophy, you've got theology, and you've got Sanatana Dharma. Like how metals, non-metals, and metalloids come under one periodic table. Similarly, Vaishnavism, Shaivism, Shaktism, Dvaita, Advaita, all of them come under Sanatana Dharma. So whether you're a Shaivite or you're a Vaishnavite, whether you're a practicing Advaiti or a Visishtadvaiti, we are all coming under one large umbrella called as Sanatana Dharma. One, and this Sanatana Dharma is today called Hinduism. So if someone asks you, why are there so many belief systems under Hinduism? You have so many books, you've got so many gods. Because we believe that we cannot keep having the same breakfast every day. Correct. So I cannot keep having dosa 365 days in a year for throughout my life. I need to have a change. I need to have nice idlis, and I need to have stuffed idlis. You know, you get these idlis as well. We make it in our house. We have some potato curry that goes into the idli. So that's really nice. And we have chocolava type idlis as well. And you've got so many types of dosas. So while we need such variety in our breakfast tables and in our lunch tables, I'm sure we need some variety in our belief system as well. So we were so very open that we accepted and respected each and everybody's belief system rather than homogenizing it, saying that all of you worship this only one. Else, no, we never believed in this threatening concept. So we had a variety. there used to be a very good, probably on a lighter vein, a great luminary called Swami Dayananda Saraswati used to give an anecdote about this. It seems a journalist went and asked a practicing Muslim. He asked him, "Sir, which is your holy book?" And the Muslim was very clear. He said, "The Quran." And then he went and asked a Christian, "Sir, which is your holy book?" And this person said, "The Bible." And he went and asked a practicing Sikh. He said, "Guru Granth Sahib." So be the Muslim, be the Christian, be the Sikh. They just gave one book. He came and asked a Hindu, "Sir, which is your holy book?" And the Hindu replied, "Welcome to my library." So we have a library full of books for us. So just that we need to manage our time, and we need to have the interest to pick up those books which we find them interesting, read, explore, cherish, internalize, and share our knowledge with. So we have a huge library of books. So in this library of books that we have given by various philosophers, various dramatists, various poets, various practicing theologians, one such great philosopher who walked this planet was Ramanuja. So Ramanuja believed that the philosophy of Visishtadvaita was all-encompassing, and it was trying to embrace all forms of people, be people of different genders, caste, creed, belief systems, all of them, they could come under this one umbrella, is what Ramanuja thought. And Ramanuja had very, very rich, illustrious succession of Sishyas. And one such Sishya who came was Vedanta Deshika. So Vedanta Deshika lived between 1268 and 1369. He lived for just 101 years, 101. So, Ramanuja lived for even lesser number of years. He lived for 120 years. So if your tata and party, if your grandparents have celebrated their 60th year, which is called Sashti Abda Purti. So, why Sashti Abda Purti is celebrated? Can just raise your hands for those people who have seen your grandparents celebrate their 60th birthday, Sashti Abda Purti. Wow, there's one. So Prakriti is raising her hand. Then Vishnu and Sarvesh are raising. And then Swati is also done. And then I see Abhinav Anand, Abhigya Chetan. Yeah, lots of you. So you've seen your Tata and Party, or one of them or both of them, celebrate their Sashti Abda Purti. Abda stands for a year. Purti stands for completion. Abda Purti stands for the completion of 1 year. So while your first year birthday would have been celebrated, the invitation would have said Abda Purti Patrika. So which means completion of 1 year. So if it is your grandparents who have completed 60, the word 60 in Sanskritam is Sashti. So Shashti Abda Purti means completion of 60 years. You know why surprisingly we celebrate 60 years with such happiness? Because in Sanatana Dharma, the Hindu calendar has 60 years. So apparently when you see your father, your grandfather, or yourself doing the Sankalpam, you call the year by a name. So for example, Plavanama Samvatsare, Vikari Nama Samvatsare, Vijayanama Samvatsare. Samvatsaram is the year, and the year has a name, Plava. This year is called Plava. So you've got Vikari. So these are all names of the years. So you've got 60 names. So it is a cycle of 60 years. So they say, right, the year that you were born, let's say a child is born in this Plava year. And for the next Plava to come, it will take 60 years. So the child has completed 60 years by the time he has turned into an adult of 60. So he has completed one cycle. So it is called Sashtyabda Purti. And Vedas say that if you lead a very, very orthodox, a very hygienic, healthy lifestyle, you will live for a set of 260s, Dvisashtyabda Purti. So which is 2 into 60, 120 years. So probably one of the persons whom we all know who has lived for 120 years is Ramanuja, who lived between 1017 and 1137 AD. So he lived for 120 years. There could be other people who have survived as well. I am not aware. If you probably walk by the streets of Japan, every house will say, yes, my grandfather lived for 121 years or something. After Ramanuja, I don't know if someone lived for 120 years. And Vedanta Deshika came very close. He came to about 101 years. So each of these acharyas, they tried to relish and internalize God in their own way. The word God in Sanatana Dharma, in Hinduism, is called by many ways. You call him Paramatma, because there is no Atma which is greater than or equal to him. So he's called Paroma Yasyasa Paramatma. There is no one equal to. In mathematics, we have, right? Let's take two variables. Let's take A and B. So if they give you A is greater than B, A is equal to B, A is greater than or equal to B. Since this Atma doesn't have anybody who's equal to him or her, and doesn't have anybody greater than him or her, he's called Paramatma, Paroma Yasyasa Paramatma. Then the other word that we associate God with is Bhagavan. I think some of you must have heard of this word Bhagavan. Yes? Even if you can't say yes by unmuting, you can just at least nod your head. Yeah, at least that makes me think that people are still listening, because it's become a monologue, like Antony's speech in Julius Caesar, friends, Romans, and countrymen. So here we have Bhagavan. You know how this word Bhagavan came into picture? We have Bhagava. So you have the first three letters. So the first letter is indicative of two qualities of the Lord. The second letter is indicative of two other qualities of the Lord. The third letter is indicative of the other set of two qualities of the Lord. 2 plus 2 plus 2, which is 6 qualities. So this 6 qualities is Jnana Bala, Aishwarya Virya, Shakti Tejas. So Jnana Bala is Bha. Aishwarya Virya is Ga. Shakti Tejas is Va. Bhagava. So he has all the 6 qualities which the Vedas prescribe that the Lord should have. Does he have any bad qualities? Because we are all an admixture of both, right? Suppose somebody asks for a testimonial from one of your parents. How is your child? He is good. And then will come the next sentence, correct? So suppose if I have to say that the Lord is a repository of the 6 attributes, Jnana Bala, Aishwarya, Virya, Shakti, Tejas, but if I try to extend, there is some dosham there. There is some flaw. But the beauty is he's flawless. He is blemishless, errorless. So he doesn't have any bad qualities. So the moment I say he doesn't have, in Sanskritam, it is na. So how do I arrive at the word na? It is arrived by reversing the word an, a, yin, a, the letter a, na, and one halank below that. So it becomes an. So an, when reversed, becomes na. So na is no, which means there is no bad quality in him. It has arrived from the word an. So Bhagava means he has got 6 qualities. An means he has no bad qualities. Bhagava plus an becomes Bhagavan. So Bhagavan is the repository of all good qualities and doesn't have bad qualities. So Paramatma is the word for the Lord. Bhagavan is the other name for the Lord. And then we have further other names as well. We have got the word Ishvara, the one who is able to control. So these are all the words for Bhagavan, Paramatma, Ishvara, and whom we associate as the Lord. Now, how do I describe that Lord? That is when all our poets and all our acharyas have played a wonderful role. So Adi Shankaracharya's Bhaja Govindam is super famous. Bhishmacharya has given us Vishnu Sahasranamam. Vedanta Deshika has given one library of shlokas. We have heard of Hayagriva Stotra, Bhagavad Dhyana Sopanam, Sudarshanashtakam, Shodashayudha Stotram, Dashavatara Stotram, Hayagriva Stotram. And then we have Gopala Vimshati, Raghuvira Gadyam, Devarayaka Panchashat, Vararaja Panchashat, Achyuta Shatakam. Then we have Vega Setu Stotram, then we have Ashtabhujashtakam, then we have Nyasadashakam. Look at the plethora of shlokas that we have got. Now, how important is it for us to learn these shlokas? So I'm sure now that all of my friends who are a part of this program organized by Sri Ahobila Mutt, you're all living amidst gadgets, right? You turn left, you have got one cell phone, mobile phone. On the other side, you've got iPad. If you turn back, you've got the desktop. Front, you've got the laptop. So the beauty is, except eating, I think, which we have to do by ourselves, and bathing, everything else we've got machines to do. Correct. So in this kind of an era, comes a very pertinent question. Why should I memorize? Right? Why should I memorize? When somebody else is reciting, I just click the play button and Alexa Mami will play it for me. Correct. So if I say, Alexa, play Vishnu Sahasranamam, Alexa will immediately listen. At times, if our pronunciation is bad, she gets confused. So she will play all this. Why should I memorize? Right. See, the beauty is, most research scholars say, I'm neither a scholar nor a researcher. Research scholars, who, that's a different category in this world, they all say that Einstein ended up using some 1.5 or 2% of his brain. And we regard Einstein as one of the greatest scientists ever born and greatest thinkers. So if he has used just 1.5% or 2% of his brain, I'm sure, I can speak for myself, I haven't even opened my account. So I've not even started using my brain. So the only way to avoid the process of rusting of my brain is to give some work to the brain. And one of the easiest work that we can give to our brain is to help store data. Like a pen drive or hard disk, it needs to store data. For storing, I need to memorize. So shlokas become very, very integral to our daily lives. So as much as possible, whenever possible, make sure that you try getting exposed to shlokas, to verses. Even don't worry, what will the other person think if I recite? What if I commit mistakes? No, however we try, we will end up committing mistakes. That's okay, but still learn those shlokas. So this is one of the easiest ways that you can deploy being very practical in your daily life, by reciting shlokas or by listening to shlokas. Now, what can you do after this? You know, how many of you watched Bahubali? For Sashtep Daputi, I had 6 or 7 hands. For Bahubali, I'm having 30, 40 hands. Very good. So that which is essential for our salvation, which is Bahubali, in Bahubali, you must have come across a set of people who spoke a different language called, they were Kalakeyas, who spoke a different language. A language was formulated for them. You must have heard of this language, right? So it was very amusing for us. One, we haven't heard of that language. Second, because of the sound. And third, we didn't understand. So we loved relishing that part of the movie where we didn't understand. So if somebody you ask, you like Bahubali? Yeah, that portion, the Kalakeya spoke, it is very interesting. I didn't understand a bit of it. So we take pride in telling that we didn't understand. Now, when it comes to shlokas, we have hundreds of questions. Sir, I've learned Hayagriva Stotra, but I don't know the meaning. What is the use of learning something without meaning? So when we have watched Bahubali and a language just for liking it, for not knowing the meaning, shouldn't the same rule apply to the shlokas as well? Nevertheless, the question is right. What if I want to know the meaning? You have plenty of avenues to learn the meaning. So you have various scholars who give talks on such verses in Tamil, in English, in Kannada. You can either listen to them, but if you feel that you're very, very busy and you've got 2-3 board meetings to attend to, then you can even read books that come with those meanings. So you have, under the guidance of His Holiness, we have Shadagopan Mama from the US, who has come up with this beautiful site called as shadagopan.org. Have you heard of this? Yeah, I can see a few people nodding, some people reluctantly nodding. Nevertheless, so in shadagopan.org, you have like 600 plus ebooks, and all these ebooks are so very well written, designed, and illustrated. So you can learn meanings from those books as well. So learning and listening to shlokas is a simple thing. Understanding the meaning is such an important thing. I'll give you an interesting, I'm calling it interesting. You can decide later whether it's interesting or not. So we have one incident from Sri Mahabharatam. You know, when Mahabharata was compiled by Vyasacharya, he needed a scribe. So, I don't know whether it exists in your countries, but in India, there used to be a stage where they used to assign a scribe for writing exams. So if your hand is fractured, then you can hire a scribe, and then I can dictate and that person can write. So, there was an era where people would wantedly fracture and would pay the scribe and ask the scribe to come. So nevertheless, Vyasacharya wanted to compile verses from his memory of what all happened. So he wanted a scribe. So as he applied to get a scribe, the person who had applied for this post was none but Vinayaka. So Ganesha had said, okay, I will love to be the scribe. So Ganesha came and said, see, I have left so much of my work. I've got lots of work because at every street corner, people are offering coconuts to me. And with the amount of coconuts that I'm being offered, I'm running a very high cholesterol. So I need to work out. So I've left all of that and come to you, Mr. Vyasa. So ensure that you make the best use of me. Vyasacharya said, I have seen things that have happened in front of me, just that I have to put them into Sanskrit verses and recite. And I need a person as adept as you to write it down. Will you be able to? Ganesha or Vinayaka said, I will do, but you should not stop anywhere. See, generally, if I have to dictate, I would say like this, right? Generally, if your mother has to give a list of things to your father to go fetch, she'll say, okay, turmeric, chilies, just wait. I think tur dal, about half a kg. So she'll think, right? Ganesha said, you should not think. You should just keep on telling and I'll keep writing. But Vyasacharya thought this wasn't right, because when you have to relook at an incident that you have been a part of, and you'll have to make that into a verse, you'll have to compose poetry out of it, you need some time. So he said, see, well, I will agree to your condition, but on condition that whatever I say and you write it down, you will have to understand the meaning and write. At any point in time, if you feel you're not able to comprehend what I say, you need to think twice, thrice, or as many times as possible to get the right meaning for it, and then write it down. Vyasacharya told this, and Ganesha thought this was a fair condition. So as Vyasacharya would keep thinking and would recite the first 999 verses that he has construed in his mind, Vinayaka would keep writing. The 1000th verse would become a riddle. So in Mahabharata, interestingly, every 1000th verse will be a prahelika or a puzzle. This puzzle was designed by Vyasacharya so that Vinayaka gets that time to think. And by the time Vinayaka could listen to the 1000th verse, understand the meaning of it, comprehend, cherish, and then take his pen and write it down, Vyasacharya would end up thinking for the next 999 verses. So this 1000th verse time was used to think for the next 999 verses. So Vyasacharya is the one who was born in an island. Like I told you, the word Hindu or Hindu is largely geographical. We name plants and animals as well. We have certain ways of naming them in biology. It's called binomial nomenclature. We have something called as a kingdom, Animalia. We have phylum, Phylum, Coelenterata, Annelida, Arthropoda. These are all phylums. Then we have genus, and then we have species. So for example, the cockroach is called as Periplaneta americana. And then you have something called Rana hexadactyla. You have got the snake, which is called Naja Naja. You have got Safed Musli, which is called Chlorophytum buribilianum. These are all names that we assign to both plants and animals in biology, binomial nomenclature. So some of these names also come from the place where it has originated. Similarly, in those days, there were names given based on the places where they were born. So this mother called as Satyavati, who was called Matsyagandhi, delivered her child on an island. And this island was formed in the fresh flowing waters of a river called Yamuna. Since this island is called Dvipam, Dvipa in Sanskrit means an island. Since this child was born on an island, delivered on an island, he was called Dvaipayana. Dvipa means island. Since he was born on an island, he was called Dvaipayana. Since he was dark in complexion. So in Sanatana Dharma, we have never been a racist. We have never thought that skin color determines the superiority or the inferiority of the person. In fact, most of our heroes are black. So we have Rama, who was dark, Krishna, who was dark, Vyasacharya, who was dark. So in fact, we have believed that the darker you get, the more beautiful you are. So even before Mills and Boons were written, India has always been a fan of both white and the black. That's why in Yajurveda, on a lighter vein, we have both parts. We have got Shukla Yajurvedam and Krishna Yajurvedam. We have both white Yajurveda and black Yajurveda. Now, so Vyasacharya was born to Satyavati on an island. So he was called Dvaipayana. Since he was dark in complexion, he was called Krishna Dvaipayana. Later in his life, he took this arduous task of compiling the Vedic mantras. So, in the kitchen, probably where your father or mother or your grandmother or grandfather cooks, or probably you cook. Nobody's even nodding their head for you cooking, right? So you eating, will all of you nod? That you'll all nod. So in the kitchen, there is a certain box called as Anjarai Petti. In Tamil, it's called Anjarai Petti. I don't know what it is called in Kannada or Telugu. Have you heard of this word Anjarai Petti? Have you at least stepped inside the kitchen and seen how it looks? Kitchen, you're not even seen. Okay, so kitchen is one integral part of the house. It could exist very close to the living room or the room. Just go and end up seeing this. It's called Anjarai Petti. This Anjarai Petti has various cups in it. And each of these cups will carry a certain spice or a dal that's essential for cooking. So one small cup will have pepper, one will have jeera, one will have tur dal, one will have urad dal, then one will have the fenugreek seeds. So you will have all this. But you know, when one is cooking, then generally the fingers are moist. So when I want to take some mustard seeds and then subsequently some jeera, I will end up using the same moist fingers to pick up the jeera after taking the mustard. So some mustards will get into the jeera cup. And if I take the jeera first, then jeera will get inside the mustard cup. So one day, whenever your father, mother, or yourself, you're all blessed with a lot of time, free time, take up the Anjarai Petti and start segregating them. Keep the mustard seed separately. Keep the fenugreek separately. Take the jeera out of the pepper cup. Keep jeera separately. So the process of separating and then putting them into the right cups is very interesting. Similarly, our Vedic mantras were one big, large lot. So it had mantras in a certain format called Rik. Some it had in the form of Yajus. Some were meant to be sung. Some were in different meters. So all of it was together. So this Krishna Dvaipayana had a lot of time in his hand. So he wanted to segregate them. He segregated them by the meter in which they were rendered. You know, in English poetry, you've got sonnet. In Japanese, you've got haiku. In Sanskritam, you've got Anushtup, Trishtup, Chandas, you've got Gayatri, you've got Malini, Shikharini, Mandakranta, Vasanta Tilaka, Shardula Vikridita. So these are all meters. So Krishna Dvaipayana started segregating them. He didn't design them. They were already there. He started putting them into the right buckets. So he put mantras which were in the format called Rik into one bucket. He put the mantras which were meant to be sung into another bucket. So he got 4 different buckets. Since he took the process of dividing, compiling, and putting them into the right buckets, this process is called Vyasam. Since Krishna Dvaipayana did this process, he was called Vyasa. Since he did this specifically for Veda mantras, he was called Veda Vyasa. So Krishna Dvaipayana got the name Veda Vyasa because of the nature of the job he performed. Okay. Now this Veda Vyasa or Krishna Dvaipayana was the one who started writing down the verses of Mahabharata. Coming back to Vedavyasa, how did he acquire this knowledge? He acquired this knowledge because he was a recipient of the grace of a certain form of the Lord called as Hayagriva. Hayagriva, Griva means neck. Haya means horse. Hayagriva means that form of the Lord which has the neck and the face of a horse. So generally in English, we say, right, when the truth has to come out, when the truth has to come out of somebody's face, we say, let it come from the horse's mouth. So even the Britishers were very well aware that if there was somebody who was to bless them with knowledge, it has to be Hayagriva with the horse's face. Now, this Hayagriva was the one who blessed Vyasa. So Hayagriva is the horse, and then we have Ganesha, who is elephant. That is why in those days, if the army was to be trained, they used to say, Kudirayai vaittu aanayai palakkuma pole. So if the elephants were to be trained, they would be trained with the help of horses, because horses were meant to run fast and elephants don't run as fast as the horses. So if the elephants had to be trained to run faster, they would keep the horses in front of the elephant and make the elephant run behind it. So the horses were trained in such a way that the horses knew that if they would run very, very fast, the elephant will get less motivated and would say, oh, I can't match the speed of the horse and I'll stop running. But if the horses were to walk and not run, then the elephant will be able to easily touch the horse's tail and say, see, even I'm walking fast. So to inspire the elephant of running, the horses had to run at such a pace where if they would run very fast, the elephant will get less motivated. And if they would stop running, the elephant will feel very proud. So they had to run at that pace where they will inspire the elephants. So who is the horse? Hayagriva. Who is the elephant? Ganesha. So Vedanta Deshika puts this in a beautiful shloka. Where, you know, where in Hayagriva Stotram? Dakshinya Ramya Girishasya Murtihi Devi Saroja Sana Dharma Patni Vyasadayopi Vyapadeshya Vachaha Spuranti Sarve Tava Shakti Leshaihi. So Tava Shakti Leshaihi. Vedanta Deshika says, O Lord Hayagriva, Tava Shakti Leshaihi. Lesham means an iota. Tava Shakti Leshaihi. With an iota of your power, three different people are blessed with knowledge, it seems. When Lord Shiva sits with one leg folded and the other leg extended downwards, he is referred to as Dakshina Murti because he faces the south. Dakshina Murti. Dakshinya Ramya Girishasya Murtihi. So Dakshina Murti, that holy form of Lord Shiva, one. Second, Devi Saroja Sana Dharma Patni. Asana. Asana means seat. Saroja Sana. Saroja means lotus. Why is the lotus called Saroja? Because it is born amongst marshes. So it's called Pankajam, and it is born in a sarovar, which is a pond. So it is called Saroja. So the one who uses the lotus as his seat, Sarojasana. Who is that? Brahma. Who is Brahma's wife? Saraswati. Devi Sarojasana Dharma Patni, the wife of Sarojasana, who's Brahma. So Dakshinya Ramya Girishasya Murtihi is Lord Shiva's form, Dakshina Murti. Devi Sarojasana Dharma Patni is Brahma's wife, Saraswati. Third, Vyasadayopi Vyapadeshya Vachaha. Vyasadayopi. Vyasa, who's now writing Mahabharata. All three of them, Spuranti Sarve. So they all get that quintessential knowledge, Tava Shakti Leshaihi, from the grace that you bestow, O Hayagriva. See, I told you about importance of learning shlokas, memorizing them. Second, I also mentioned about understanding the meaning of them. So when you've understood the meaning of this verse, I'm sure the next time you end up reciting this verse, you'll be thinking, oh, this is the meaning that he spoke to us. So it will be interesting. So learning and then learning the meaning is very important. So these are some forms that we can inculcate in our daily life as to how to practice our own sampradayam, whether you belong to Adi Shankaracharya sampradayam or Ramanuja Deshika sampradayam, whichever sampradayam you belong to, you will find this very, very interesting. So these are some thoughts that I had. Now I'm going to quickly go to the questions that I have got. I think I've got close to 40-50 questions. I may not be able to take all of them, but at the same time, I want to attend to some of the questions, right? So I hope you'll find this question answer session interesting. I will read out the question and I will also check who has asked this question. So there is one question. Is Lord Krishna the origin or Lord Vishnu the origin? Please clarify. So who has asked this question? Can you raise your hand? Oh, okay. So Sai Gayatri, you have asked this question. Check if you can unmute. Oh, you're not able to unmute. That's okay. So you had this question. Now coming to
now I can unmute, uncle.
Yes. So now you can speak. So what's your good name?
Sriram.
Sriram. So Sriram, you had this question. So what made you ask this question? Is Lord Krishna the origin or Narayana the origin?
Narayana.
No. You're answering the question, but what made you ask this question? Where did you come across this doubt? How did you come across this doubt? Anyways, so the question is very pertinent because I believe some of you might have seen some of your friends and relatives or probably yourself following or attending to some of the ISKCON sessions. So in the International Society of Krishna's Consciousness, which follows the Gaudiya Vaishnavism propagated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they firmly assert that Lord Krishna is the origin. Whereas if you talk about Ramanuja's Visishta Dvaita or Madhvacharya's Dvaita, they regard Narayana as the origin. So which one is right is the question. It's a very simple way to answer. All our acharyas have also believed that Narayana is no different from Krishna and Krishna is no different from Narayana. Unnum shorum parugum neer tinnum vettilayum yellam kannan, says Nammalvar. So to me, everything is Krishna, says our Alvar. So finding this question as a very, very important one, rather I would say that this question can be dealt in two different ways. One, to say that Krishna or Narayana are no different from each other. At the same time, when we go through a system in Sanatana Dharma, we go by references, pramanam, so verbal testimony. As per verbal testimony in the Vedas, Narayana is the name that has been assigned for the Supreme. So Narayanat Brahma Jayate, Narayanat Rudro Jayate. So the word Narayana has been associated. So technically, if someone asks you who is the origin, Narayana could be the answer. But if someone believes and says that Krishna is the origin, we don't have to argue with the devotee because Krishna is no different from Narayana. So both are right in their own ways. Now, I'm going to go to the next question. Which is the 8th avatar of Vishnu? If Balarama is the 8th avatar, then how come Balarama is also an avatar of Adisesha? See, first of all, the concept of 8th avatara or 9th avatara comes. Who has asked this question? This question? Hello? Somebody there? Who has asked this question? Who is it? Oh, is it Priya Badri? You have asked this question? No. Then who has asked? How many of you had this doubt in your mind? At least raise your hand. Okay. So the question is, why is Balarama the 8th avatar, 9th avatar, right? So this 8 or 9 is a number that we assign because we believe that Dashavataram is the only set of avatarams that the Lord has taken. Correct? See, Avataram is the word avatara means the process of jumping from top to bottom. So if you jump from the top of your door to your floor, you are also an avataram. So avatara essentially means to jump from the top to bottom, and the reverse process is bhavataram. So it is believed that the Supreme wants to move with mortals like us. So he or she will choose to be born amidst us in any form. So that becomes an avatara. So there are plenty of avatarams as per Sanatana Dharma. So it is not restricted to the number 5, 10, 15, 20, 21, 25, 28, 50. Asankhya avataram. There, Sankhya is number. Asankhya means innumerable. You cannot even end up counting. Even while we are living now, there could be avatarams around us. If you're in Scotland, there'll be an avatar in Scotland. There could be an avatar in Russia as well. We don't know. So to understand who amongst us is an avatara, whom we are moving as an avatara, we need to have a great divya drishti like our rishis, which we are not having. So avataras are plenty in number. But the moment I say there are plenty, so if I ask you how many songs are there in this world, as on date, how many songs could have existed? Tell me. So somebody tell me how many songs. Okay, so Maitu Anjur. So Maitu Anjur, you tell me how many songs are there that you know of?
That I know of, I couldn't count them.
Oh, you couldn't count them. So, but are you sure you like 2 or 3 songs at least of them?
I like at least like more than 20.
Okay, very good. So you know the number of songs you like, but at the same time, you're not aware how many songs exist in this world because they are innumerable. Similarly, the avatarams of the Lord are innumerable, but our acharyas have chosen a set of avatars and said, see, you may not be able to learn and understand so many avatars. Let me pick and choose certain avatars for you, and they've chosen 10 avatars. That's all. So Dashavataram is not the end to all the avatarams of the Lord. It is just the beginning because there are innumerable avatarams. So while one Rishi compiled the set of 10 avatars and the other Rishi compiled the set of 10 avatars, there will be a mismatch. Correct. Suppose if I ask you which are the 10 songs you like, you may end up saying 10. If I ask another person the 10 songs could vary. So this variation in the Dashavataram comes because different rishis have compiled it different way. Let's take Vedanta Deshika's Dashavatara Stotram. So can someone say, recite the verse Ichhamina? Raise your hand. Ichhamina Vihara Kachapa. Have you learned this Dashavatara Stotram? So Avyukt wants to answer. And Sri Purva. Okay. So Avyukt, can you recite?
Yes, Adin. Ichhamina Vihara Kachapa Mahapotrina Yedirchaharehe Rakshavamana Rosharama Karuna Kakusta Hela Hale Krida Vallabha Kalkavahana Dasha.
Kalkinniti Pratyaham. So very good. So I saw somebody else. Sri Purva. Sri Purva, right? You wanted to recite as well. Can you?
Okay, Adin.
Sure.
Ichhamina Vihara Kachapa Mahapotrin Yadichharehe Rakshavamana Rosharama Karuna Kakutsta Hela Halin Krida Vallabha Kalkavahana Dasha Kalkinniti Pratyaham Jalpantah Purusha Pranadi Jatara
Punyoga Panyapanaha. Okay, so now you have recited the 10 avatars. Ichhamina. So you know about the fish. Vihara Kachapa, tortoise. Mahapotrin, the form where he came as a wild boar, Varaha. Yadricha Harehe, as a lion, man lion. Raksha Vamana, as a dwarf. Rosha Rama, as Bhargava Rama or Parashurama, the angry one. Then we have got you've got Karuna Kakutstha as a merciful Rama. Then Hela Halin, the one who carries a plow in his hand, who's Balarama. And then you've had Krishna, and then you've got Kalki. Right? These are the 10 avatars, Dashavataram, which Vedanta Deshika lists. How many of you have heard of Pralaya Payodhi Jale Keshava? So Madhumati has heard. This is in Ashtapadi. Pralayapayodhi jale Keshava. Even Mumukshu Savita knows of it. So in that, what is the avatara that you come across differently in the verses? So anybody else? One avatara is very strange in that. What is that? In that listing of 10 avatars, which poet Jayadeva has done, there is one avatara there, which is very, very different. What is that? So you've got this avatara. Nindasi yajna vidher ahaha shruti jatam sadaya hridaya darshita pashughatam keshavadhrita buddha sharira. So he talks about this incarnation called Buddha. Vedanta Deshika doesn't talk about Buddha. So if Buddha is replacing one avatara, which avatara could it be? You know what Jayadeva does? He doesn't mention of Krishna avataram at all. In Dashavatara, he doesn't mention of Krishna avataram. How could he miss Krishna, sir? His birthday is coming so very close. And how did he manage to miss the birthday boy? Because he says that Krishna has incarnated as Matsya Kurma Varaha. Pralaya Payodhi Jale Keshava. So Krishna is incarnated as, it's not Narayana. So Jayadeva says Krishna has incarnated as these 10. Similarly, how many of you have heard is Dolayam Chala Dolayam, Annamacharya Kriti? So again, Madhumati knows the Kriti. Then Ameya knows. Okay, Ameya, can you recite the last charanam of this song? Daruna. You want to try? Do.
The song, but I don't know how to recite it very well.
Okay, that's okay, but you've heard of it. That's so nice. Anybody else who can recite the last portion? Arabhi Ramabhadran, can you?
I know the first part, but I'm not so sure of the last charanam.
What is the first part? I would love to listen to what is the first part.
Nina Kurmavaraha Mrigapati Avatara Meena Kurmavaraha Mrigapati Avatara Danavare Guna Shaure. After that, I'm not sure.
Very good. So very good, Arabhi. So Annamacharya has listed down the avatara. So he says Meena, Kurma, Varaha, Mrigapati avatara. The next charanam is Vamana Rama 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 Vara Krishna Avatara. So this is the next charanam. You know what is the third one? Daruna Buddha Kaliki. So Buddha and Kaliki form an integral part of Annamacharya's composition. So each of these acharyas have listed down different sets of 10 avatars. So your question that how come Balarama is the 9th avatara or 8th avatara, and while Balarama, whereas Balarama is supposed to be the avatar of Adisesha, doesn't apply, because each of them have compiled the set of 10 avatars differently. One. Second thing, Balarama is regarded as the avatar of Adisesha. How come he's also the incarnation of Vishnu? Because remember, Adisesha is no different from Vishnu. So if you've heard of the 108 Divyadeshams, there is one Divyadesham called Ulagalanda Perumal Kovil, Thiru Uragam in Kanchipuram. So if you go inside the temple, you will find a small opening in the ground. And if you crawl and get inside, you will see that form of the Lord as Adisesha. So Adisesha is no different from Vishnu. So Vishnu has himself become Adisesha to become his bed. So his mother tried buying beds for him, different mattresses. Every time she would buy, he would find some mistake. Finally, he ended up being his own bed. So Adisesha is no different from the Lord. So Balarama is called as the incarnation of Adisesha, is also correct. Balarama is the incarnation of the Lord, is also correct, because the Lord is no different from Adisesha. So this is one question. Then we are coming across another question that we'll see now. Wait. So, in one of the Vedas say that everything other than Brahman is unreal and Brahman is the supreme reality. Then why, according to Visishtadvaitam, the world is considered to be partial reality? So, two things that I have to make a correction in the question itself. Vedas say everything other than Brahman is unreal, is untrue. Advaita, which is presented to us by the very respected and revered towering personality Adi Shankaracharya, says that everything but the Brahman is unreal. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. This is what Adi Shankara states. Vedas don't state that. One. Second thing is, the question has another part. Then why, according to Visishtadvaitam, the world is considered to be a partial reality? So Visishtadvaita doesn't consider the world as partial reality. It considers the world as a complete reality. So why this difference? See, Vedas state that there is one supreme truth, which is Brahman. Adi Shankaracharya's Advaita says, if there is one supreme truth, which is the Brahman, then I see different things around me. I see a laptop in front of me. I see a plate in front of me. I see a water bottle next to me. I see my Angavastram. I see my the carpet on which I'm sitting. So I'm seeing a variety of things. But you're saying Brahman alone is the reality. Then what about these things? So then the philosophy states, if Brahman is the reality, the only reality, and there are many other things around you, then they are unreal to a certain extent. They appear as though they are there, but in reality, they are not there. So he says, as per his philosophy, that Brahman is the only truth and everything else is unreal. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. This is what Adi Shankaracharya's Advaita states. Whereas Ramanujacharya's Visishtadvaitam states, Brahman is the only reality. Agreed. But why should I say that the other things are unreal to say that Brahman is the only reality? Then Adi Shankara said, see, when we say the only reality, then the other things have to become unreal. That is why I'm saying they are unreal. Ramanuja says, you don't have to think about it that way. What do the Vedas state? They say that Brahman has no match. So whatever you see around is also real, but all these real things that you see around is a part of Brahman. So Brahman has a body, and that body is all that you see around. So if someone states that if Brahman has a match, Ramanuja says there is no match. Brahman has, there is second Brahman? No, there is only one Brahman. There are many things around me. Those things are a part of the Brahman. So while Shankara states that Brahman is real and other things are unreal, Ramanuja states everything that you see around is also a part of that reality. So the question is very interesting, but I don't know how many of you may have the patience to understand this question. So I leave it here. Then we can take two more questions here. So multiple proofs suggests that Ramayana and Mahabharata really happened, have been found, like Rama Setu, remains of Dwaraka. Yet we call these two epics as mythology and not history. Why? Who calls it mythology? People who came from the West, especially when we had the Europeans who came to India, wanted to design the education system and wanted to give us accounts of it. They called it mithya. Mithya in Sanskrit means untruth. So mithya became myth. So they said all this is untruth. This did not happen. So what makes us think that things in Ramayana did not happen? I think this doubt must have come in the minds of many of you people. So what incidents in Ramayana make you feel, sir, these things couldn't have happened? Can someone say? Raise your hand. Something in Ramayana must be intriguing. Something in Ramayana. Okay. Shravan Sanjay, you have raised your hand, right? Hey, Shravan. So what part in Ramayana makes you feel, no, this couldn't have happened? That's why I'm believing it's untruth. What is it?
Hanuman, a monkey jumping across the ocean to reach Lanka.
Okay, good. So a monkey which can just jump from one branch to the other. probably one tree to the other. We are talking about it taking a proper Lufthansa flight like experience from Bharatadesham to Sri Lanka. And we say that the monkey flew. Birds fly, understandable. Monkeys jump, understandable. But a monkey flying, how is this possible? Correct. So, sir, this is what that makes me and many of my friends feel that Ramayana is nothing but a figment of somebody's imagination, and it couldn't have happened. Let us deal with Ramayana in 2-3 aspects. I'll go on a broader scale. So there lived a king called Dasharatha. Kings existed in those days, correct? We had pharaohs in Egypt. We had many kings in Greece and Italy. So kings could have existed. So Dasharatha living, not surprising. One person having many wives, not surprising. He had Kaushalya, Kaikeyi, Sumitra. Yes, possible in those days. That was polygamy. They had married multiple women at one time. So they had many wives. Not so unimaginable. He wanted children. Yes, there are many parents who want children. Not so unimaginable. He had 4 children. Yes, sir. Many of the families whom I know have 2, 3, and 4 children. Yes, imaginable. Yes, at one point in time, Kaikeyi loved Rama just like her son. Sir, due to the brainwashing of a woman called as Manthara or Kuni, she wanted to send her beloved son, whom she thought to be very, very loving to her, who's Rama, to the forest. Yes, possible. In many, many families, brothers and sisters who live together for many years, because of family fights, they all get separated and become nuclear families. Understandable. So in many cases, we find that the father works in one country and the mother stays back in India. In certain families, we see that after a few years, 2 or 3 years, the husband calls the wife back to his country and gets her a visa as well. So Rama wanted to go to forest. He initially said, Sita, you can stay back in Ayodhya because visa is a big problem. Then Sita said, no, I also want to come. So she also went with Rama, not so unimaginable. So we have Ravana who came from another country and kidnapped Sita. Kidnapping is no new feature. In many, many countries that has happened. So that is also imaginable. So when these things are imaginable, in the middle, sir, there is this point, major point where Hanuman comes and flies. That is causing me major worry, sir. What should I do? Well, remember that be it Ramayana or Mahabharata, I will ask questions now. I hope all of you are paying attention. So in Ramayana or Mahabharata, whatever has come to us has come in the form of poetry. It is not in the form of prose. See, when we read Harry Potter, it is prose, right? It's not poetry. So most of the novels that we read, they're all prose. So in prose, you give easy sentences. You may end up using similes and metaphors, but at the end of the day, you will end up giving simple sentences. Whereas poetry is a different art. You will have to describe a certain geography. You may have to describe a certain person. You may have to describe certain abstract nouns like emotions with a lot of vigor and beauty. So if I have to describe some woman in prose, I would say, Mala entered this room. She came with a book in her hand. She took the chalk piece and started writing on the board. Looking at Mala writing on the board, Abhinav looked at Mala and said, I have a doubt, ma'am. Right? So this is how I write in simple lines. Now I'll convert this into poetry. The one with the gait of a swan walked by the room with flutterers flying by. And as the butterflies flew left to right, she took the white stick onto the board while Abhinav asked, can I? So this is how poetry is, right? So what is the difference between prose and poetry? Her walk would have been normal. But in poetry, I have to end up describing, exaggerating. So I say the one with the gait of a swan walked. She will walk normally. But in poetry, I have to describe, exaggerate. So poets and poetry take the license of exaggeration. Exaggeration is when you describe things that are beyond what is happening in reality. So poetry gives us the license to exaggerate. So Ramayana and Mahabharata have come to us in the form of poetry and not prose. So poetry will always end up exaggerating things. One, are we poets? Yes, we are poets. How? See, when I had to start driving, I took the car. My aunt did not want to venture in the car with me. She wanted to live for a few more years. So she asked my mother to travel with me in the car. And after the drive was over, my mother got inside the house and my aunt asked, how did he drive? You know what my mother said? She said, he didn't drive, he flew. Did I fly? Did I fly? No. So, Shravan Sanjay, tell me what she meant while she said, he didn't drive, he flew. What could she have meant? The question was, tell me.
She meant that you drove very nicely and it was like you were flying.
That's one way of interpreting. Another way, can somebody else try? Raise your hand. Okay, I will check. Srinidhi, you want to unmute and say something? Yes, Srinidhi.
Like driving fast.
Yeah, very good. So I drove very, very fast. So if my mother had imagined that the car would go at say 50 miles or 60 miles per hour, I must have driven at about 90 or 100. So which was more than what she had expected. Not that the car wouldn't go, which is more than what she had expected. So she has made up in her mind that something which goes fast than what I expect or she expects, it is called flying and not driving. So she said he didn't drive, he flew. So if a normal monkey jumps at a certain pace, there could be an extraordinary monkey that jumps. So that extraordinary monkey has to jump more than what a normal monkey jumps. So in that case, Valmiki could have said that Hanuman flew while most other monkeys jumped. Not to indicate if Hanuman actually flew, but he would be jumping more than what other normal monkeys would jump. Correct? So this is poetry. Remember, in poetry, you can always exaggerate. So this exaggeration is a product of poetry, and Valmiki could have exaggerated that Hanuman flew. Second thing, our thinking process suggests that Hanuman would have taken off from Bharatadesham and couldn't have stopped anywhere in the middle. But it could be so that Hanuman would have jumped place to place, island to island, and could have gone. See, for example, in the Olympic Games, people jump they jump to such an extent that makes me feel that they are all children of Hanuman. So they jump so very high. I can't even jump 4 or 5 feet, but they jump so high jump, low jump. They do so wonderfully. So even while we are living, we come across our fellow human beings who can run and jump much, 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 much better than us. So in the human race as well, we come across such examples. So in those days, probably we could have come across monkeys which could jump that far. And third important thing is we come across a lot of endangered and extinct species, correct? So if we haven't found fossils of dinosaurs, wouldn't we still be believing that dinosaurs are nothing but a myth? How could you imagine something which is like 100 feet high and which could have a neck which is as long as 10 times or 20 times as that of a Komodo dragon, and that which could have teeth and which could have tongues as well? So to imagine a dinosaur is so tough. Whereas when we see fossils, we are made to believe that yes, there existed such large animals. Similarly, there could have been a special, very adept species of monkeys which were adept in jumping much, much higher than what the monkeys in the current days could do, and they have become extinct. Correct? So I'm sure if you check up with your parents who grew up in India, I've seen many, many houses. They would have seen houses. They would have seen parts of their houses where sparrows would construct nests inside the houses, and they would be flying within the house. But today, barely do we get to see a sparrow, because sparrows are dying because of the excessive use of the technology that we are all having. We use cell phones, gadgets. Because of these waves and vibrations that affect them, sparrows are dying away, and soon they will become extinct. So maybe 50 years later, if somebody says, see, some of them talk in their books about sparrows, small birds, but that's not possible. That couldn't have existed at all. That's wrong, right? Just because something is extinct, we cannot deny its past existence. Similarly, there could have been species in the monkeys category, which could have spoken that way, which could have flown that way. And another part which I would love to answer, the question what Shravan had posed about monkeys jumping. The other part is Hanuman spoke. See, you don't get inside a zoo and expect a monkey to speak, right? You get inside a cage and you find the monkeys, and suddenly the monkey says, Tat tapaswadhyaya niratam tapasvi vagvidambaram naradam paripapracha valmikir munipungavam. Imagine a monkey recites this. And then probably we'll be thinking for a moment if we should stay within the cage and let the monkey free. Correct? So this will be our thought. How could Hanuman speak, sir? Remember, communication is also something that is very, very relative. How many of you have pets in your houses? Pet. Okay, so or many of you have pets. Now, and you will have a name for your pet as well, correct? Okay, so Soumya Saranathan, what's the name of your pet? Hello? Hi, Soumya. How do you call your pet? What is the name of your pet?
Okay, yeah, sorry. My dog's name is Snowflake.
Snow?
Hello?
Hello, yeah. Can you be a bit loud, Soumya? I was not able to catch the name. So come again. Hello? Okay, I'm going to ask the name of the pet of somebody else now. Okay, so Anirudhatreya. So what is the name of your pet? You have to unmute.
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry, I was unmuted. I think the internet connection was
Yeah, what is the name of your pet, Soumya?
Snowflake.
Okay, so for example, does your pet say, I'm hungry, please give me food, talk to me, I'm bored? How do you understand, gauge the emotion of your pet? How do you do that? I'm sure your pet can't talk. How will you do that?
Yeah, she just moves around and we kind of.
Exactly. So you look at the body language of your pet, correct? So if the body language suggests that he or she is very, very bored, then you'll end up cuddling and then you'll embrace and then you'll want to kiss your pet. And then suppose he or she is hungry, you'll understand and say, Toppa pachikku down now chapad konvaren. So the pet did not talk at all, but you're able to understand what the pet wishes to communicate. Similarly, probably, I'm just giving you one possibility, be it Vali, Sugriva or Hanuman, they couldn't have spoken in reality. They could have just communicated like how most animals or pets do. But Valmiki, like how we understand the emotions of our pets, Valmiki could have understood the emotion of the monkeys and could have designed them into shlokas. Possible, correct? You're able to get what I'm saying? So, monkeys flying could be an exaggeration. They could have flown more, jumped from one tree to another, one place to another, more than what we expect a normal monkey to jump. Monkeys speaking chase Sanskrit, that could have been possible because there could have been different species of monkeys. Or the other thing is the monkeys were so intelligent in communicating that their communication and body language could be deciphered by great rishis like Valmiki and could be put into verses. So things in Ramayana or Mahabharata are not absolutely unimaginable or against reality. Just that since they have been given to us in the form of poetry, they have been given with a tinge of exaggeration. So Ramayana or Mahabharata is not mythology, it is reality. But proof, how do I get proof for that? See, let's forget Ramayana and Mahabharata for a while. Have you heard of a king called Raja Raja Chola? Yes. So tell me which temple he has constructed. Heard of it? Want to try which temple? Ameya? Which temple? Yes, Ameya. Tanjavur Periya Kovil. Very good. So, which was the temple constructed by his son Rajendra Chola? Anybody wants to give it a try? Anybody for a try? So Abhinav Anand knows it. Try. Yes, Abhinav.
I don't think I know it, but is it like Gangai Konda Chola?
You're absolutely right. So you've known it right. So give a pat on your back. Good. So Gangai Konda Cholapuram was constructed by Rajendra Chola, and the big temple, Brihadishwara temple in Tanjavur, was constructed by his father, Rajaraja Chola. They just lived about 950 to 1000 years before. Has anyone seen the palace where Rajaraja Chola lived? Anybody try? Has anyone seen the palace where he lived? Kings lived in palaces, right? So you haven't seen. So I will say Rajaraja didn't live at all. See, I am not seeing the house where Rajaraja lived. There's no proof of Rajaraja's existence. You say that he constructed the temple. Do you have any CCTV camera footage of him constructing the temple? Do you have? No. Then who tells that? No, sir. There is some epigraphical evidence. There is some inscription that states. That could have been an evidence. Even my grandfather would have gone to the temple and written it down on the wall. How do we know? Correct. So remember, even for kings whom we believed lived 1000 years back, like Rajaraja Chola and Rajendra Chola, we don't have proof of their houses. You know why? Because 1500 years before, all our kings thought that permanent granite stone structures were meant only for the Lord. And for them, they will never have permanent structures. They will construct structures out of wood or brick. And the moment that king is dead, they will break that palace, and the next person who comes has to make a house for himself. So we believe that permanent structures were for the Lord and impermanent structures were for primitive mortals like us. This is how most of our kings thought. That is why we don't come across palaces of Chandragupta Maurya, or we don't come across palaces of most Chalukyan kings like Pulakeshin. We don't come across palaces of most Chola kings like Rajendra Chola or Rajaraja Chola or Parantaka Chola, because they all had impermanent structures. So even 1500 years before, if this was a concept, as per historians, Ramayana is dated somewhere between 5000 and 5500 BCE, much at least 1000 years before the early Egyptian dynasty. So in such an era, which is roughly 5000 to 5500 BC, means 7500 years before from the current date. So if this is the age that we are dealing with, what proof can we get except the natural proof that we have? So I'm sure, I think it's called the Science Nature channel or something. I can tell you the name of the channel. It is, I'll just tell you. So this channel, which is based in the US, okay, so they have seen a string of pearls that look like a string of pearls or stars that exist between Sri Lanka, the island nation south of India, and India. And they were quite surprised, and they thought that this place is a combination of man-made and natural structure. The natural structure is the oceanic ridge at the bottom. It's called the Science Channel. So those of you who have time, please do go through this YouTube channel called the Science Channel. So they suggest that there is an oceanic ridge, which is at the bottom in the oceanic bed, which is a natural formation. And above that, they have come across a man-made formation, which is about 7000 years. So currently, I told you, Ramayana is dated somewhere between 7000 and 7500 years. And Science Channel from the US, that comprise of research scholars and scientists who have nothing to do with Ramayana and Rama, say that there is a man-made structure which is 7000 to 7500 years above the natural structure. So this corroborates with the Rama Setu, which Rama constructed with the help of monkeys to fetch Sita from the clutches of Ravana by walking to Lanka. So we have such natural formations which could be of some use to us to collate proof, but we may not have the tooth, we may not have the hair strand of Rama. I cannot bring up some strand of hair and say this is Rama's hair, some tooth, and say this is Sita's fallen tooth. She had placed it in the ground, I got this tooth. So what is the use of all of this? So we have geographical evidence. He was born in Ayodhya. Ayodhya exists in Uttar Pradesh. She was born in Sitamarhi. Sitamarhi exists. She was married in Janakpuri. Janakpuri exists in Nepal. They came across Chitrakuta and the river Mandakini that exists at the top of Madhya Pradesh, which is in central India. They lived on the banks of river Godavari in a place called Nashik. Both of them exist in Maharashtra. They lived and Rama, on the search of Sita, on the sojourn, he came across the region called Kishkinda, where monkeys existed and where he had to kill Vali and rescue Sugriva. That place called Hampi in Vijayanagara Samrajyam in Karnataka exists. There, then he dispatched Hanuman to go in search of Sita. Hanuman ended up flying from the hill called as Mahendragiri, which is called Tirukkurungudi in the south of Tamil Nadu near Tirunelveli, that exists. He flew across the ocean. Indian Ocean exists. He came to Lanka. Lanka exists. He saw Sita atop a hillock called as Nuvara Iliya, which is a hill station in Sri Lanka, exists. He met up with Sita. She in a place called Sita Eliya, that place exists. The Agni Pariksha was performed, the test of fire was performed for Sita, and that exists in a place called Divurumpula, which in Sinhalese, the language of Sri Lanka, means where the oath was taken. That exists. So, well, we find the trace of Rama's journey geographically. We find Science Channel from the US talking about the Setu which was constructed. So I don't think there is much proof to suggest that Ramayana did not exist. So just that we need to get over this thought that, well, I'm not able to find the palace where Rama existed. Even 1,000 years before, Rajaraja's palace couldn't be found. Where will we find the palace of Rama who lived 7,000 years before? So I think we shouldn't spend much time in debating with a lot of people stating that Ramayana existed or not. All our acharyas believed, and there was no commercial angle for them to disbelieve that Ramayana did not exist or existed. So we must continue believing, because there is more than proof, and all these people who have sung before us wouldn't have wasted much of their time had Rama not existed at all. See, Harry Potter is something that I loved, right? I've read all the volumes, I've watched all the movies, but years after reading Harry Potter, how many places in India or Europe are named after Harry Potter? No, right? So when it is a novel, it is a figment of J.K. Rowling's imagination. It remains within the books and movies. But when something is reality, it goes beyond that, and we start naming each other. Many of you will be called Rama, Ramachandran, Sri Ram, Ramabhadran, then you will be called Raghavan, Vijay Raghavan, Veera Raghavan. So we are named so much after Ramayana and Mahabharata characters. So it was very much a part of our reality. We shouldn't be spending much time and wasting much time to understand if I can find the hair strand of Rama, the nail of Sita, the tooth of Hanuman, and all of that. All that is irrelevant. With the strand of Sita's hair, we will not be able to achieve anything in this world. Correct? So she is more important to us rather than her strand of hair. Hanuman is more important to us rather than his fallen tooth. And Rama is more important to us rather than his fallen nail. So what is more important to us is how they lived and what they lived, and rather than what are all the things that belong to them, right? So I think we have dealt with these questions. Can I take some live questions? I'll just go for 1 or 2 live questions and we can be done with this session. So I will go up with people whom I have not interacted with at all. So Varun Iyengar, you can unmute and ask a question. Hi, Varun.
Now, how do I visit Krishna during Gokulashtami?
How do you need
How
to
do I
visit
see?
Krishna?
How do I see?
Okay. See, many of the things in this world are seeable and certain things are not. For example, what do they make? What sweets do they make for Krishna Jayanti, Gokulashtami in your house, Varun? Generally. Or what do they buy? If they don't have time for making, what do they buy?
Theratipal.
Theratipal, okay. Then?
Laddu.
Laddu, okay. So can you see Laddu?
Yes.
Yeah. Generally, what color is it in?
Yellow.
Yellow. And how does it taste in your house? You're happy
Sweet.
with the way they make the laddu?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So it's sweet, it's yellow in color, you can see the shape and you can eat. When you eat, what is the feeling that you get, Varun?
Tasting good.
When you eat, yeah, it tastes good. So you feel good, it tastes good. It tastes good, so you feel good. Can you describe that feeling further? That feeling good. Describe that further, Varun. I would love to hear that. Describe feeling good. You have described laddu. Laddu is like a ball. It is yellow in color. It is sweet. Everything you've said.
It
And
makes
you
me
feel
so
good.
happy.
You feel happy. Describe happiness. Can you?
No.
Okay. And I would love to see that happiness, Varun. Show me that happiness. No? Where is it? I can see the lamp, two nice Nachiar Ko lamps behind you. It looks so nice. Show me that happiness. No?
Smile.
So likewise, Krishna has to be experienced from the within. So he won't knock at your door at 6:30 and come up with a tree with a beard in his face and then say, oh, here I am, I brought 3 laddus. It's a feeling. Happiness is the feeling. Getting angry is a feeling. It's abstract, right? So someone makes you angry and you say, see, I'm mad at you, I'm angry. And that person says, can you describe anger for me? Describe. You'll say, you are making me even more mad. I'm angry at you. So how will you describe that anger? So anger is a feeling that you can feel within, you can't describe. Happiness is a feeling that you can feel within, you can't describe. Similarly, Krishna is a feeling. He has to be felt within. He has to be felt as your very friend. The moment you look at Krishna's photo or his beautiful Vigraham or his Murti, you should feel that you're having a very, very personal, private conversation with Krishna. So that becomes so private. You can't describe. If someone says, tell me what feeling you have, you shouldn't be able to describe. That's devotion. So if I start expecting Krishna to knock at my door at 6:30 and come, that is very premature bhakti. That's very amateurish. So God is a feeling, is an emotion. And you translate that through idols, photos, paintings, portraits. So if you want to meet Krishna, you have to meet him within, internally. And you don't even have to describe how your meeting was, because your meeting with Krishna is so private and so secure and so personal that you don't have to describe. He's all yours as much as he's mine. Okay. So for this Gokula Ashtami, you can see Krishna within the laddu. For this Gokula Ashtami, you can see Krishna within the Terettupal. For this Gokula Ashtami, you can see Krishna within the feeling of that happiness when you eat that Terettupal. So if you expect Krishna to knock your door, I think you may be disappointed. If you feel you can talk to Krishna from the within, you won't be disappointed. You'll be very, very happy. Yeah. Varun feels, why did I even ask this question? This man has given such a long answer. Or you feel good? Tell me, Varun. You have to unmute.
Just thank you.
Okay, thank you. So a more question. I'll just take one more question and we'll wrap up this session. One more question. One more. I'll go to whom? So Shriman or Shriman, how do you call yourself? How do others call you otherwise? Yes, unmute yourself. Shriman. I see the name Shriman.
Shriman.
Oh, okay. So Shriman. Okay, so I see okay, Shriman. Shriman, tell me, Shriman, where do you live, Shriman?
Atlanta.
Wonderful.
Near Atlanta.
Near Atlanta. So it's not Alpharetta or Marietta. Where is it then?
It's in Suwannee.
Okay. So you have to tell me, Shriman. Ask me a question. I'll check if I can answer.
You said that Hanuman might communicate using sign language, but in Sundarakandam Ramayanam, Hanuman tells the whole story of Rama to Sita, right? So, like, how can he
Correct.
do that with this sign language?
So 2-3 probabilities. One, it could have been a different species that is extinct now of monkeys that could communicate as well as humans. Possible. So he could have spoken Sanskrit. Second possibility is he could have spoken in the sign language and Valmiki could have interpreted that in Sanskrit. See, for example, I go to a house. They have a pet dog and the pet dog keeps looking at the master in a certain way. And I ask the master, what is the pet dog trying to say? Pet dog is saying that she is hungry. Correct? This is what the master says. The pet dog did not open the mouth and say that she is hungry. But the master is able to interpret based on the body language what the pet dog spoke. Similarly, Hanuman could have, through his body language, communicated a lot of things to Sita. And that communication has been deciphered by Valmiki in the form of Sanskrit verses. So case one, there could be a set of extinct species in the monkey race that could have spoken in Sanskrit. Possible. Second, the monkey could have still spoken a sophisticated or communicated through a sophisticated body language, which has been interpreted in the form of Sanskrit verses to us by Valmiki. One of the two could have happened. Either the monkey could have directly spoken or whatever the monkey tried to communicate, Valmiki has given. Possible, right? This is just a possibility. I'm not saying I don't have the CCTV footage, the camera footage there. This could be a possibility. Quite understandable? Convincing to a certain extent or not, Shriman?
Yeah, it's convincing.
Okay. Yeah, guys, even if it's not convincing, feel free to say it's not convincing. I'm okay with it. I'm not here to convince you guys. Yeah. Any other question? So many hands. Now, whose question have I not taken? Shubha Seshadri, you have a question? Any question? If you have a question, I'll be happy. If you don't have a question, I'll be all the more happy. Yes, Shubha.
When is the next session?
Oh, when is the next session? Oh, this session will get over very soon. And Ahobila Mutt will be organizing more sessions with great scholars and you can ask your questions there as well. Yeah. So then Partha Sarathi PV. Yeah. What's your question, Partha? Yes, Partha. I think you need to unmute. No, I'm not able to hear you, Partha. Unmute. So I'm not able to hear you. How come? Unmute again. Try. Yeah. Now I think I think I should be able to hear you. Okay. I'm not able to hear you then. So many hands, but I need to give chance to people. Okay. So Akshat Rajesh. Akshat Rajesh.
Can you hear me, sir?
Okay. So just wait, Akshat. Now Partha Sathi, I can hear you. Yeah. Tell me, Partha.
If Ramayana take place 7 years ago, then
7,000.
what about Treta, Dwapar and that Yugas?
See, there are two ways of looking at the timeline. So our Shastras say that Kali Yuga, the current era where we live, where we are living now, is for a duration of 4,32,000 years. And twice this was our earlier Yuga. So 8,64,000 years was Dwapara, and thrice that, which is close to 12,96,000 years, is Treta. So, and then 4 times that is Krita. So it runs for lakhs of years. So this is one way of looking at the Yuga cycle. The other way of looking at Yuga cycle is a time period. See, you must have heard of this generation concept. See, you must have heard your parents say that in our generation, this used to happen. Whereas in your generation, this happens. Have you heard of this comment from any of your parents, Partha?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So there, what your parents or grandparents mean is a certain culture, a certain tradition was followed in that era, which is not being followed now. So that becomes a different generation. This becomes a different generation. When you expand this generation further to a certain period of time, that becomes yuga. So one way of interpreting yugas is 4,32,000 years into 1, 4,32,000 years into 2, 4,32,000 years into 3, 4,32,000 years into 4. 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1 is 10. 10 into 4,32 is 43,20,000 years is one set of Chatur Yuga. So this was one way of interpreting. The other way of interpreting Yuga is a time period. So when Rama lived, there was a certain tradition. Later, when the rulers changed and when Krishna came into existence, there was a certain other tradition. So this concept of dividing time is also Yuga. For example, there is a new year that we celebrate throughout the world. That new year could vary. For example, on the 1st of January, most of the people in the Western countries, in the European countries, celebrate that as a new year. Whereas people who speak Tamil roughly celebrate around the mid of April. People who celebrate, who are Telugu and Kannada speaking, celebrate a certain other new year. You know, what is the new year celebrated by Telugu and Kannada people called?
In Telugu, they called something Ugadi.
So Ugadi comes from the word Yugadi. Adi in Sanskrit means beginning, start. Yuga means time period. So Yugadi. So if this year I'm celebrating Yugadi on April 6th, next year I may get it around April 4th or 5th, for example. Is that the beginning of the Yuga, Partha?
No, it's the beginning of year, right?
But they should have called it Varshadi or Samvatsaradi, but they call it Yugadi. It is not the beginning of Yuga, right? Why? Because time is always relative. When the lecture session is interesting, you wouldn't even realize how the 2 hours went. When the lecture session is boring, every second of the lecture will look like a yuga for you, correct? So when something is boring, every second becomes a yuga. When something is very interesting, even 2 hours will go like a second. So time is very relative. So one way is to go by the interpretation of yuga. The second is based on historical proof. So when we look at 7000 BC, that's possible for Ramayana because around the 10,000 to 12,000 BC, we are dealing with Ice Age. So in Ice Age, I'm sure none of these people could have existed, be it Rama or Krishna. So that 7,000 area should be our Treta Yuga. 5,000 BC is around our Treta Yuga. 3,000 BC should have been our Dwapara Yuga. And where we are living now is Kali Yuga. So Yuga can always be relatively dealt with. Okay, so I've tried my level best to answering, but there could be a better answer given, which I'm not able to come up with now. Okay, I think we are getting very, very close to the end of the session. So I would now hand over this mic or the process of leading the discussion to the organizer. I'm very, very thankful to Sri Ahobila Mutt US, which under the directions and benign blessings of the current Acharya Pontiff, His Holiness, the 46th Pattam of Sri Ahobila Mutt, is doing a wonderful job in such challenging times. Had it been the normal period, I would have visited the US and I would have spoken and interacted to you with all in person. But given that we are all going through a pandemic and different waves are occurring in different countries at different points in time, it is not safe to travel to for such long distances. So we are using Zoom, Google Talk, and all these as a platform to interact with. Nevertheless, when there is an opportunity, I'll come and meet you all in person and interact with you all in live. And I'm very, very thankful to Sri Ahobila Mutt US, Raghavan Rajaji Mama, and all the volunteers every volunteer has done a wonderful job in putting all this together, creating a form, creating the process of registration, getting you all in, streaming this live on YouTube for posterity. So I'm thankful to every organizer, every volunteer, and I'm very, very thankful to the children here. Your presence, your interest level shows how serious you're all and how much respect you have towards the Sampradayam and Sanatana Dharma. May this love that you all have for this wonderful ancient Vedic civilization continue. As much, see, remember this, Sanatana Dharma believes, as much as we are all practicing Hindus, we should also learn to respect the other religions. We are never a culture where we disregard, where we disrespect, where we speak ill of other religions. Our culture and civilization has never taught us that way. We have believed that we respect and follow our sampradayam, our civilization. At the same time, we will never speak ill and disrespect other civilizations. This is what our ancestors have taught to us. Following this motto, let us continue our love for the civilization and may this flourish. Kavitarkika Simhaya Kalyana Gunashaline Srimate Venkateshaya Vedanta Gurave Namaha. I would now like to hand over this mic back to Mama.
Adiyan, Danyosmi Adiyan, very, very interesting lecture, and especially the way you reach out to the children to explain our Dharma so easily so that they can understand. And we really want to thank you for taking 2 hours of your time, especially early morning for you in India. For us, it's okay on a Saturday night, but for you in India, early morning. Thank you very much, Swamin. And we will continue to bring people, Swami and others like others, as Swami said, so that we can have lectures like this. For those who are not aware, we have story sessions exactly similar by different people based on our religion, Puranas, etc. on Saturdays at 5 o'clock US time. But everything is on YouTube that you can go. There are over 70 of those on YouTube. If you look under Ahobila Mutt Inc. Story session, you will see that. So please go through that. And if you want to attend any of these sessions, please send us an email to the same email that you got the invitation, the Zoom link for, and we will put you on and you can attend these sessions. And we will certainly include you for future sessions of Swami Dushyanth Sridhar also and others. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you, Swami. Again.
Okay. Swami, I just have one small announcement to make to all my fellow participants and friends. So some of you may be learning